Hey there, all my PopCon peeps. Magic Man Rusty here again, and welcome to this live streaming episode of the Magnificent Seven to celebrate PopCon Indy's 7th anniversary. We like to
Ooh.
spend 7 minutes with our PopCon family. And joining us in the PopCon Corral tonight, two people who know more about horror movies than Boris Karloff. I'm your host, Rusty Ammerman, and our Magnificent Seven with George and Audery begin right now. How you doing, George and Audery? What's going on?
Oh, it's a pleasure being here with you, Rusty.
Yes, fantastic. How are you?
Oh, couldn't be better. Okay, so let me kind of tell the story here. You two have been greatly associated with Horror Hound over the years. You have been their in charge of their international film festival, right?
This is our first year of being directors, but we have been with them like 5-6 years in
Right.
various roles.
And you did such a great job. We winked and blew kisses and got you guys to do a little moonlighting for PopCon. So you're going to be helping us out this year.
Yes.
Yes. Very excited about it.
Tell the fans what they can kind of expect. Go, George. George or Audery, whoever does most of the talking, and I think we're going to get it.
It's usually me.
But now I'm going to end up doing it. We have a lot of different stuff from animation, from sci-fi, a lot of great films. We even have horror films, which we have dealt with Horror Hound. So there's a whole different hodgepodge of different kinds of films that I'm really excited for all the PopCon fans to see.
Thrillers, comedies. It's just like this whole umbrella of films, and it's so great because they're so diverse, and we have so many hometown movies, like Indiana movies, or connections that people that went to school here, like college, or lived here at one point, that went to LA, they went to Alaska, they went to all these places, and we have such a nice group of indie films. It's great.
Yeah, when you say indie films, you mean like indie
Oh, I
films.
mean, oh yeah. So this has
Indie,
been a
indie.
debate before. Indie, INDIE, which is indie independent, or indie, INDY, which is Indianapolis or
Right.
Indiana.
Homonyms, I guess, and they are synonymous.
Yes.
That's fantastic. So you said a diverse here. Are there going to be any musicals this year?
No,
Actually, wait. We kind of do have a musical. Batman, the Star Trek one with the kids. Remember, they're singing.
They had a bit of,
Yes, there is a little bit of a musical that is Star Trek based. Amazing, right?
Star Trek musical?
Yes. With kids.
I can't wait because you two know, but I'm a pretty serious Star Trek fan, and I'm a theater kid. I grew up musicals, so if you take Star Trek and musicals, it's either going to be wonderful or it's going to be really awkward. I can't.
Yeah,
tell.
we've got a couple of really unique things, but that probably is one of our most unique movies, I think, because it's this whole, movie short based on Star Trek with these kids, and they're singing, and it's just fun.
Lots of fun fan films are in there too, so it's you can see the passion and the love of the work. Some Batman 66 stuff. So
yeah. I almost was going to. I have the Batmobile 66. Honestly, when you think Batmobile, what's the first image that comes to your head? Be honest.
Mine personally is the Batman animated series. That's
okay. I guess
my love.
For most
even though I grew up with Batman 66, it was the animated series that was just like, wow, a long stretch, but I'm like, that's so cool.
Mine is 66, but also more because I love it, Batman Beyond, the animated series. So
understood. Okay, well, I'll let that pass. So I'm just thinking, is Spock gonna tap dance? Can you see Spock like, I am the very model of a modern science officer?
That'd be awesome. No spoilers.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm tapping in there. All right, so I'm going to ask you the stupid questions everybody asks when they find out you're into horror. This is a dumb question. So, what's the scariest movie you think that was ever made? Go.
That was ever made? I mean, that really, the scariest movie for me as a kid was Amityville Horror. And
okay. Why?
And that is because my sister scared the crap out of me. I watched the movie at the drive-in with no problems. I wasn't really scared. It was the aftermath of my sadistic older sister that's almost 6 years older than me, tormenting her little sister, telling me how the blood is going to come get me. And I would just walk upstairs in the dark after a scary movie. It didn't mean much to me until she started tormenting me. Not going to even get you started about the potato sack on the head, like from Friday the 13th Part 2 that she did, with a paper sack and tied a string around it.
From what movie was that?
Oh, Friday the 13th Part 2, when he's got the one eye up here and one down here.
Right. There was
Yeah.
also, guys, there was also a film, I think from the 60s or 70s I saw as a kid that kind of flipped me out, called The Town That Dreaded
The
Sundown.
Town That Dreaded Sunlight had the yes.
Yep. Dawn Wells, Marianne from
Yes, from
Gilligan's
Gilligan's
Island was in it.
Yep. And that was a really messed up movie because I'm super into true crime and I have a degree in criminal justice. And that's one of the cases that still to this day.
Right, that town in Texas, yeah. Okay, so George, your turn. Scariest movie for you?
It really just because it was from my childhood. I'd look at it now, not very scary, but it's the Legend of Hell House. I watched it late night on Sammy Terry during he was our horror host here in Indianapolis, and that movie scared me. It was a nice mix between science versus spiritualism and who's going to be able to figure out, the mystery of this haunted house. And as a kid, it scared the shit out of me.
It holds up. I think that one holds up.
This is George. So, George, are you enjoying Hell House?
He freaked me out so much, and I would hide behind the couch or the chair in the house until my dad said, he has his best friend is a spider and it has the same name as you. And I peeked outside behind the chair, and I was like, really? And so
he may not be so bad.
He might be okay
now. So for those people that are not in the greater Indiana market, Sammy Terry, for those really young people, Sammy Terry was the Indianapolis market's horror host on WTTV Channel 4. And he was kind of Indiana's version of Elvira or the Cool Ghoul, or there's some others there, but he would come out of a coffin and he had this amazing baritone mellifluous voice. And when you're a kid, that would scare the poopies out of you. It really would. Now later, real quickly, later I did something on the Cowboy Bob show later on when I was in high school, and they had all of his stuff set up the same. So there's the coffin all propped up, and I'm like, that's where.
Awesome.
And Bob Glaze comes, he goes, yeah, they filmed that stuff like on Sunday afternoon. Like, I just want to see behind the curtain. Okay, yeah. So for me, I don't think this. When I was talking to Tom Savini, he and I think that the scariest movie ever was The Exorcist. But of course, you're raised Catholic, and that has a different thing. I was way too young when I saw that movie, so sometimes it's where you are. The first real scary movie that I saw, adult scary movie. I'm not talking Dracula or the Wolfman. The first real scary movie I saw as a kid in a theater was The Fog. Adrienne Barbeau, do you remember that?
Oh yeah, one of our favorites. We have some stuff signed from that.
Wasn't that John Carpenter?
Yeah, and Deborah Hill.
And he did those jump scares where you would think you were going to get scared and then you weren't, and then he'd smack you in the face. Man, looking back, it's not that scary. It's kind of weird. But like you were saying, George, when you're a kid, that experience, that really messes with you.
Oh, yeah. Especially, I love a good ghost story, and that was one of my favorites. Yeah.
Okay. So you, here we go. So you said that you like things that are horror and science fiction. You like the combination. What do you think is the best example of combining horror and science fiction? I bet George is going to say Hell House, right?
No, my favorite horror science fiction has got to be
Aliens. Oh, it's going to be mine too.
Yeah.
What is up with the space jockey? What is up with the space jockey? Right. Go ahead.
James Cameron added all the action to it, so that led me to also, even though Alien, the first one, was phenomenal and just iconic, Aliens just took it to a whole other level. So I love that.
Oh, sorry. So you said Aliens, the sequel. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah,
the sequel is my favorite because it's just they just added a what Ridley Scott took and from with that very horror based, and then just continued with the horror, continued with the sci-fi, and then added like killer action to it.
Right. So. It was like you take a monster movie. It was almost, I'm trying to think. I guess it's like Alien meets the invasion of Normandy, right? I mean, it was just everywhere. Like one alien on a ship was devastating. You remember the scene where they're like, it's inside the room, and they pop open the ceiling like a ceiling tile.
And they're all just.
Oh man, they came out the summer of '86, didn't it?
I mean, that movie still to this day will have certain spots where it scares me, and where I just think, what would I do? I probably would have grenaded myself, so I would blow myself and like half the ship up. I mean, there's certain things that you can battle, and then there's certain things that, you know what, it's like, I'm going to take as many out as I can. And
Right.
then, you know,
So you would have Vasquez. You would have pulled Vasquez's technique just right off the bat. You and the lieutenant just call it. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. I'm going
That.
to take something with me.
So where is the scariest place to see a movie? Do you think it's in your house with the lights out, a theater, or a drive-in?
That's a good one.
You know, I would say before technology,
Yeah.
it got to be what it is, where you have the surround sound and you can put things like that in your home. But the drive-in, you're outdoors, it lends a certain element of openness, and that, you know, how many movies have you seen where the guy comes up to the couple in the car and asks them? So to me, it's the drive-in.
I think so too.
But the experience is great at the drive-in. It's like one of my favorite places to go. So
I'm with you. The sound quality, of course, is terrible at the drive-in. Even with the best, it's terrible. But there's something kind of analog and organic, and I think that word gets overused too much. But there's something. Listen, the home's great. I think I've got a great home theater system, but there's something there. You're still distracted by your phone. You can go to the back. You know, you've got stuff going around you. I really like to suspend that disbelief. So George, you want to weigh in on this? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would have to agree with all that right there. It's just like, you know, yeah, with the home is fun, but it's something you're comfortable in. You know, you go, and then a theater, there's a lot of things that could be creepy about a theater, but a drive-in with the mystique and the openness that, you know, and you're with all those tons of different people. You don't know what, you know, the person just next to you might have in their car, or if they're crazy.
Yeah, in the
trunk.
Especially if they got a big Lincoln, you're like, there's 2 or 3 bodies in that for sure.
I know there are. I know I can smell them. I can smell them. Okay, so I have this debate with friends often about what constitutes a horror film. So obviously, the classics, Dracula, Wolfman, things, those are horror films. Certainly, Alien is a horror film. I guess you could argue a little bit, but like Scream, you would say that's a horror film, of course. Yes.
Yeah, it is.
A little bit of hesitation. What about Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, horror?
Those are all easy to categorize. It's the ones that are hard to categorize.
And that's what I'm getting at.
Like, are the ones that they kind of dance on that line, or it's so much drama and everything else, and then like there's maybe 15 minutes of horror. I like to call those maybe thrillers or suspense films. I don't really categorize those as horror, and sometimes movies really toe that line.
They do. Yeah. So Silence of the Lambs, you wouldn't call that a classic horror. Certainly that wouldn't constitute horror. That's more drama, suspense, thriller.
And possibly even a romantic drama. I'm just playing.
Well, you're right, because when you hear, you know, in literature, romance doesn't mean lovey, kiss, kiss, kiss. Romance.
Exactly.
No, you're right. I've never thought. I think Silence of the Lambs might very well be. There might be a romance quality to it. You're exactly right.
I was just joking, but
yeah, no, but it is. I mean,
because
it's a relationship. It's that building. You started that basis relationship where there's no respect, there's no admiration, and then slowly within Clarice doing her job, she is tantalizing him. She is making him tap into things that he usually didn't tap into. And not only did I think he had a love for her, he had a respect for her. Yes. So it was very romanticized.
Well, at the very end, he could have been lying, but I believed him when he said, "I have no plans of coming after you, Clarice. The world is a much more interesting place with you in it." That I believed him. Thank you. But I believed him. He really did think highly of her. So we talk about romance. I had an English teacher in high school, Carla Beard, shout out to Carla, who made a compelling case that Star Wars is a romance. So let that flip around in your head a little bit. She got some points there. All right. So speaking of drive-ins, George, what was your first car?
First car was an '86 Buick Century. Bought it from my aunt, and I love that thing, even though because I did not take very good care of it. It lasted for as long as I needed it to, until I was able to buy a new car, which was my very next vehicle. But I love that thing.
All right, Audery, how about you? Your first car?
A crap brown '82 Honda Civic hatchback.
You described it exactly like Axel Foley did in Beverly Hills Cop.
Yes. And I tell you what, it was one of the most beat up cars, and it was a stick shift. So I learned to drive on the stick, but it had a big rust spot from the outside, and when it rained, it would blow rainwater into the driver's side back, so I could only put my kid on the passenger side in the back seat. It was crazy, but it would start up under any conditions, and it drove like a dream.
You know, and now that we're, successful adults and we have newer cars, there's something kind of fun about having that old beat up, because when you go out with your friends, if something got dinged or scratched, you didn't care. You didn't care. A new car now, oh my gosh, there's a smudge. We got to stop what we're doing, because in those days I would pile my friends up and take them to Muncie to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is not a horror movie. Oh, well, you know what? That's a musical horror, isn't it?
That is a musical horror.
There's one.
And a romanticized.
Yeah,
you have to tap into a lot to watch that. I mean, you're going through all kinds of emotions.
It's a coming of age movie. It's a road movie. It's a comedy. We can just keep going. It's everything.
Oh yeah.
It's a gender bender. It's all over the place. But anyway, when it got trashed, or you didn't really care so much. It didn't
exactly.
Let me give a quick commercial here. Obviously, the V convention for PopCon is going to be happening July 10th through the 12th. We want everybody to join. We're going to give you more information about that as we get closer. And some of the guests that were on board for our real convention are now online for the virtual convention. A lot more details about that coming up. We are so thrilled to have you guys as part of the PopCon family now. And George, are you sporting a PopCon shirt?
I am.
We both are.
Let's see.
Look, should we get up? There we go.
Look at that. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We didn't fight over these shirts at all.
I had to pay for mine, so you better had to pay for yours too. Guys, it has been a pleasure. Any last things you want to throw out to the fans? Something that they need to be looking for coming up here soon? Is there like one, if they're going to see one of these movies, is there one particular one that you say is like the must see of the event, or is that putting too much pressure?
Oh my gosh, that's so hard.
It is.
I honestly cannot put one movie out there, because we have features, we have shorts, we have fan films, we have films that have been in 30 film fests, we have films that are debuting here. We've got so many films. But what I would say is, as we get our list out, we will have little bios. You can look up the movie you want to watch. You can watch the trailer.
Good.
So do your homework. There are kid-friendly films. There are some that kids shouldn't see, but there is something for everyone. So, please, support these filmmakers, because they are doing, they're living their dream, and we're happy that they are sharing it with us. We got so many, good submissions, and we just want them to keep making movies. So please support them. Please.
That's right.
You watch.
The very next Kevin Smith or Robert Rodriguez or Quentin Tarantino could come out of what you're about to see. Just keep that in mind.
It's very possible.
Those guys all started with nothing.
We're getting people, a lot of them at their inception, or they're in their first 2 to 3 movies, or it's their first movie, but they are there as talent. And this is when you want to get in and start being fans of these people, because then you get to watch them grow and move on to things. And you're like, hey, I remember seeing that movie at PopCon.
Right.
Their first movie. It was great.
You're going to share that journey with them, of course.
Yes.
You too. It has been a pleasure. As always, please stick around after we say goodbye to the peeps out there. But everybody, thank you for being a member of PopCon family. Thank you for joining us for the Magnificent Seven. And for all my PopCon peeps out there, so much more to come. And until next time, live long and prosper.
I can do it too.